Pathways to Participation, a podcast series about creating more inclusive hiring. Featuring executive educator Dr. Sharna Wiblen. Each episode brings fresh ideas, practical guidance, and a sense of possibility to the way organisations design jobs, work, and selection processes. Hello, my name is Chris Firth. Episode 1, Debunking Fears about Inclusive Hiring. For it's not a hard problem to solve, it's a mindset problem to shift.
So, Chris, I think it's really important for us to be starting this podcast series with us reflecting on some of the fears, because the fears are really the parts that are creating some of the barriers to inclusive hiring and accessibility to open employment. And I want us to start with just a really simple but really important truth for all of us to be really mindful as we start this series. And that's that disability is a part of being human. None of us choose to have a disability. It can happen to us by birth, it can happen by accident or by illness. It can happen to you, it can happen to me, it can happen to members of our family, our colleagues, and parts of our community. So when we look at the fears around disability and inclusive hiring, we really want to understand it as a universal human experience. It's not an exception. It's not a way in which we are doing things differently. And when we think of disability as part of being human, it helps us to shift the conversation. It helps us to shift the conversation into inclusivity. And it becomes less about those people that we don't necessarily know about, and more about how we can design work and workplaces that work for all of us and help us all include each other in the notions of work. And here's the good news, because in this episode, we're going to be talking about the fears and the reality of what it comes to for inclusive hiring. But most of the fears about inclusive hiring are not only unfounded, they're surprisingly easy to solve with a bit of flexibility and workplace flexibility. Because as you said at the beginning, it is a mindset shift for us to do with inclusive hiring. And even if we do think that this is really hard, Australians can do hard things. So we've got this team. We are able to expand and look at every hiring decision as an opportunity to include. So I'm going to take us through some of the biggest fears that we have associated with employing people with disability. And I'm going to debunk those for you really clearly at the beginning of our time together. And the first fear we have is usually around the idea of lower productivity. The fear is from employers and decision makers and line managers that productivity within our organisation will drop if we include people with disability. And guess what, team? This is not true. I get to debunk this fear for you because decades of evidence shows the complete opposite. That when jobs are intentionally designed to align with capability, people with disability can perform as effectively or better than their peers. And this is because we have some things associated with accuracy, reliability, and quality. And we've got different aspects that we can do with that. Fear number 2 that we hear a lot when it comes to inclusive hiring is that there will be higher costs or more expensive accommodations required by bringing those people into our workforce. The fear is, and we hear this time and time again, this will be really costly and we'll need to make expensive adjustments. And again, it is fantastic to know and to be able to tell you that the reality, it's just not true. It's just not the case. Most of our accommodations cost little or nothing. And Australian data shows that about 88% of our people with disability require no specific adjustments or expensive adjustments at all. When we do have some adjustments, many of those are one-off costs, and we have government funding that is often available to help you with those costs. Fear number 3, Chris, is the idea around that we need increased leave requirements for those people when we bring them into our workforce. The fear is that they'll need extra and additional time off. Again, I get to be here to debunk that fear for you today and to say the reality is just not the case. We've got some stats that tell us that about 82% of people with disability report no disability-related leave at all. Most of the needs that we have in inclusive hiring and bringing people in to pathways to participation is around flexibility, not actually additional leave and time off. And the additional leave requirements is associated with that idea of fear number 4 and one of the other fears that we have, which is around higher absenteeism. The fear is that our absenteeism will increase. And again, good news, team. There is no evidence to support this at all. Absentee patterns related to job design, culture, and safety practice. And these are the reasons why we find that people have time off work. And these factors relate to everyone, not somebody's disability status. So there's opportunities for us to be mindful of the role of organisational culture and inclusive hiring. And what about safety? As Australians, we love safety. We love occupational health and safety. And for those of us that are in a workforce, know that this is part of our weekly conversations. So let's think about the fears associated with safety risks. The fear that hiring someone with a disability is a safety risk. It's not. It is not a safety risk. Studies also show by Job Access that inclusion can actually improve the safety ways in which we have in our organisation. And if we think about that, let's think about why that might be the case. Why hiring someone with a disability might actually improve safety. And that is because we will have in place some aspects around our policies and processes and procedures with clearer communication and better designed workflows so that there are clearer expectations of what everyone is doing. So let's look in some of our fears in terms of our internal organisations and those around negative team dynamics. The fear is that our team won't cope. It will make people uncomfortable if we bring somebody with a person with a disability into our team. But we can do hard things, and as Australians, we can be uncomfortable. And even though this is unfounded, inclusive workplaces, we really do find a whole heap of evidence to say that there is the chance that it helps us with higher morale, it helps with cohesion, and really specifically for us as community leaders as well, with empathy as well. Intergroup contact shows that people working together also reduces bias and builds trust when we have more empathy and understanding of different people's ways of working. And that brings us on to another fear, Chris, a fear around legal complexity and liability. As much as we love occupational health and safety, we're also really aware of our fantastic workplace relations laws that we have. And that employing people with a disability will create a legal risk. And again, team, it doesn't. I get to debunk that fear. Inclusive hiring actually helps us clarify rather than complicate our legal obligations. Because by bringing people into our workforce with disability, we tend to be more aware of the processes involved in the workflow, and we are able to make those more transparent and therefore reduce actual risks associated with any legal part. And that brings us to the last fear, Chris, today that I want to share with everyone. And that's around lower customer acceptance. That customers won't respond well if we have people with disability on our team. But the research again shows, and I get to debunk that through the science, that customers often feel more positive about organisations that hire inclusively, and that interactions between people with disability and customers helps to build empathy and improve perceptions of service quality. So thinking about how we can bring people in with disability into our team can actually be part of your customer service strategy and help you show your customers how important inclusivity is to you.
Blending research with real-world guidance. Executive educator Dr. Sharna Wiblen providing practical ways organisations can redesign jobs, work and selection processes so more people with disability can participate and thrive. In the next episode, viewing inclusive hiring as a team sport.
It really works best when we recognise that multiple people shape who gets hired and who doesn't. Every player brings to the game, the hiring decisions, those experiences, their assumptions about people and people's behaviour, about work and workplaces, about outcomes and outputs, really shape how we decide who does and who does not get jobs.
Pathways to participation, where every hire is an opportunity to include. This podcast series was funded by the Australian Government Department of Social Services. For more resources, visit online access2work.com.au. That's the numeral 2, access2work.com.au. Thank you for listening.